So, part two. So, in the 1960s, we're in the decades of free love and free expression and anti-establishment and the counterculture. You remember the phrase "make love, not war"? Did you think it was coined by some hippie, by some idealistic, long-haired lunatic? No, it was coined by an old Jew called, oh dear, I've forgotten his name now. It will come to me. Right. And he's one of the Frankfurt group, Frankfurt School I mentioned earlier, and they were, let's say, the architects, the string pullers, the puppet masters of all this counterculture of the 60s. It didn't just come out of nowhere. It very much was birthed in this synthesis of Marxism, economic Marxism, and this sort of social stuff and the cultural stuff that comes from psychoanalysis and other disciplines. And by the time we get to the 60s, we'd gone through the 50s with McCarthyism in the States, where there's very much a fear of communism, and it turns out it was quite well grounded, this fear, because during the 50s, 40s and 50s, the academic establishments in America in particular were becoming thoroughly infiltrated, as was Hollywood, interestingly so. And then, as we're going to see, the counterculture in the 60s suddenly becomes let's say the word I mentioned earlier, the narratives. These narratives, the 1960s narrative, which is still with us today, says that all the problems in this world created by the white middle class male of a Christian or even a Jewish background. It's colonialism. This is why this system hates Israel, because it sees Israel as the last bastion of white colonialism. So in order to sort of get people to think badly against these white middle class Christian men, it creates supposed classes of victims. Now these people, in a sense, are victims. So we're talking about women. So we've got the rise of feminism movement, Germaine Greer and such people, and Black Power, homosexual, Native American, every group manageable. Their emancipation was, in many senses, manufactured. I'm not saying that Martin Luther King was a fake, certainly not. And but we do find this Marxism gets into people's minds and sort of brings up this victimhood as being all important. And out of this victimhood comes political correctness and also health and safety. It's the subtle infiltration of the state, saying, this is the nanny state saying, we know what is best for you, we know what is wrong in society, and we know who the problem people are, so why don't you turn against these problem people so that we can all be together, we can all love each other, we can all love the gays, the blacks and the feminists. And now the thing is, the people formulating these theories, they weren't doing it because they have a particular love for the blacks and the gays and the Muslims, etc. No, it's because they had a strategy to bring down the government, the Western culture. So it was a false love, it was a false narrative, and they're still with us now, and it seems to be increasing, particularly with the LGBT thing. These narratives have now created situations of real unrest in our society, and also taking away individuality, so that people are scared to say things. People have lost their jobs for saying one word that has alerted the PC police, and they've conjured up some laws to sort of make your employee kick you out. And similarly with Christianity, where some type of preaching is now seen as a hate crime, because there's some PC law that has been written to counter certain parts of the Bible, like in Leviticus, that seem to be hateful. But you know what I'm talking about. So this is where we are now. It's all very subtle, and I'm still trying to get my head around it, and I'm certainly trying to figure out myself how Christians can respond to it, because at the moment we're not doing a good job. We're not doing a good job in addressing the LGBT situation. the certainly the Islamic thing, without sounding too judgmental and too hateful, and fulfilling all the negative stereotypes that people have of Christians. We need to find another way, and in future broadcasts coming up soon, we'll explore ways that we can be more effective and more reflective of the God who lives within us, rather than the typical Christian who just reacts negatively to anything that seems to be against his worldview. So watch this space, and we'll go on a journey together. Okay, see you soon.